For decades, fans have wondered what really tore Styx apart. Now, the band finally speaks out, revealing the shocking truth behind their split with Dennis DeYoung. The topic that has plagued Styx for decades, their highly publicized and intensely personal breakup with veteran leader. Dennis DeYoung is being addressed once more by one of the most illustrious rock bands in American music history. Fans have been debating the true reasons for the split and the possibility of a reunion for years. The group is now disclosing the personal and artistic challenges that resulted in one of the most significant turning points in their career with greater clarity than ever. The band remembered how promising their voyage with Dennis DeYoung had been from the beginning. His dramatic songwriting and soaring vocals contributed to Styx's rise to global renown. They collaborated to produce some of the most well-known rock successes, songs that are still played on vintage rock radio and in concert halls today. DeYoung's talents were an indisputable component of the formula that made Styx famous during their prime years. A unique blend of pop accessibility, progressive rock intricacy, and hard rock fire. However, fractures were already starting to appear beneath the veneer of success. Creative disagreements that just could not be resolved were at the core of the dispute. DeYoung was passionate in elaborate musical concepts and large-scale theatrical events, but his colleagues preferred a simpler rock and roll sound. DeYoung aimed to introduce more dramatic stage productions, storytelling-based performances, and ballads. With lavish lighting, elaborate sets, and well-planned tales, he saw Styx as a band that could venture into Broadway-style territory. However, the other members of the band were certain that Styx should stick to its rock roots and concentrate on a more unpolished, raw sound that prioritized authenticity and intensity. Those creative conflicts only became more pronounced over time. The band clarified that what at first might have appeared to be minor disagreements quickly turned into heated debates on the group's identity and direction. During recording sessions, tensions increased as everyone became dissatisfied due to different ideas about how songs should sound. Because the artistic conflict permeated interpersonal connections, touring also became more stressful. Mistrust, animosity, and conflicting egos now dragged down what had once been a brotherhood united by music. The proportion of ballads to harsher rock songs was another factor that exacerbated the division. Styx achieved some of their greatest commercial success because to Dennis DeYoung's ballad-driven style, including classics that are still in demand decades later. Other band members, however, believed that the band was shifting away from their initial concept and that those softer songs were overpowering their tougher work. While DeYoung was veering more toward theatrical narrative, they acknowledged that they wanted to write music that spoke to audiences in a more straightforward and raw manner. This creative tug-of-war was occasionally visible to spectators during the band's live performances, as various parts of the show appeared to represent quite different iterations of Styx. When these disagreements eventually started to interfere with the group's capacity to work together, it was the tipping point. Communication was strained, rehearsals were challenging, and the tension permeated every facet of their job. Members have publicly discussed how awkward it got to even share the stage as the excitement that characterized their performances was supplanted by ongoing arguments. The band came to the conclusion that they could no longer proceed with DeYoung after years of trying to establish common ground. They felt they had no choice but to split ways, despite how difficult the decision was. The choice was not taken lightly, Styx stressed. The band's identity had to be reshaped in a way that would alter fans' perceptions of them for all time when DeYoung, a founding member and one of the most identifiable voices in their catalog, was removed. However, they also firmly believed that carrying on in the same manner would have completely destroyed the group. Even while the divorce was painful, it was a vital measure to protect Styx's future. In retrospect, the band has been open about how personally terrible the consequences was. The musicians talked about how their friendships were impacted and how sad it was to lose a long-standing musical collaborator. They admitted that they had experienced some of the most memorable times of their life with DeYoung and that his gift had enabled them to achieve things they otherwise may not have. However, they remain steadfast in their conviction that continuing without him was essential to their continued existence as a band. The shadow of Dennis DeYoung has followed Styx ever since the split. The band has heard the many questions from fans about if a reunion is ever possible. They understand the sentimentality and the wish to see the original group reunited. However, the group has stated in recent interviews that they feel stronger and more united in their current shape, even though they respect the past. With the lineup they currently have, they are still dedicated to creating their legacy because they feel that the Styx of today is more authentic to the music and ethos they wish to convey. However, they are not afraid to acknowledge DeYoung's influence. They freely acknowledge that his composition and voice contributed to the creation of timeless hits that are still adored worldwide. Even as they continue to forge their own course, they declare that they will always pay tribute to that aspect of their past. Styx has stated that they are proud of the way they have managed to strike a fine balance between honoring the past and without letting it dictate their future. As a matter of fact, the band attributes their newfound freedom to their post-DeYoung years. They felt free to experiment with new stuff and get back in touch with their fans on their own terms without having to deal with the never-ending creative tug-of-war. They described feeling rejuvenated by the chance to rebuild their sound and focus on what truly mattered to them as musicians. That freedom, they explained, has kept Styx alive for generations of fans who continue to fill arenas and celebrate their music. For fans, hearing Styx reflect so openly on their history with Dennis DeYoung is both emotional and illuminating. It shines a light on the complicated reality of being in a band, where music, ego, art, and personal relationships are all intertwined. It is a reminder that even the most successful groups face internal battles, and that sometimes the price of survival is letting go of someone who was once essential to the journey. Today, Styx continues to perform, record, and thrill audiences around the world. And while the chapter with DeYoung remains a defining part of their story, the group has made it clear that their future lies in the present. They are proud of the music they created with him, grateful for what he brought to the band, but also confident in the path they have chosen. For longtime followers, it is a bittersweet truth, but one that reflects the complex reality of a band that has weathered the storms of fame, change, and reinvention. With this latest reflection, Styx has shown that their story is not just about a falling out, but about resilience, honesty, and the power of moving forward. And while the question of a reunion will likely never go away, the band has spoken with clarity. Their legacy continues, their journey goes on, and the music of Styx, both past and present, will always remain alive in the heart